Aloha, and welcome to the season finale of Live at the Legislature, where every week during the 2021 legislative session, we have talked to senators, representatives, Democrats and Republicans about the issues, bills, and events happening at the state capitol. Today we'll feature three informative segments. First is a discussion with House and Senate leadership reviewing the 2021 session, followed by a discussion about water and land and the House committees bills that move through there. And finally, our quick fire question and answer 2-minute drill with some of our new legislators. In this first segment today, we have Senate President Ronald Kouchi, who represents Senate District 8, Kauai, and Niihau. Welcome, Senator. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Aloha to everyone watching. I would just like to thank Olelo for creating the opportunity for the legislature to try and connect and better inform the public about what is happening here on a weekly basis.
Thank you, sir. And next we have House Majority Leader Della Belatti, who represents District 24, Makiki, Tantalus, Papakolea, Makali, and Manoa. Thank you for being here, Majority Leader.
Thank you, James. And I just want to echo my thanks for Olelo and for all the wonderful staff.
Okay. And finally, we have House Minority Leader Val Okimoto, who represents District 36, Mililani Mauka, and Mililani. Thank you for being here, Minority Leader.
Thank you, James. I want to put a plug in. I do have a part of my district also that's called Waipio Acres. That's part of my district that's often forgotten, but I'm grateful for this opportunity. Mahalo again to Olelo and Majority Leadership and staff, as well as my staff.
Well, thank you for mentioning that, and we're glad you're here and representing those people. To get started, now that the legislative session has ended, we'd like to review the accomplishments this year. And I'd like to ask you each if there's one word you'd use to describe the 2021 session and why. Senate President, can we start with you on this one?
Sure. The one word would be remote or distant, and there are two meanings to that word for me. First is our ability to allow remote or distant testimony and participation by members of the Senate. We had talked a lot about the neighbor islands having the opportunity to better participate and avoid the cost of inter-island travel. And we certainly now have made that possible, but it's also been distant or remote because I would often have lunch with various members during the course of the session, hang out on the railing as committee hearings were going on, and engage with my members and the community, and none of that happened. So I've never felt so distant from my members in any of the sessions that I've served as president, and this was certainly a very different and unique experience.
Yes, unique, that's right. Majority Leader, what's your word for this session?
I think in looking back at what we did, the word for me is productive. In a truncated session of 55 legislative days, we had over 3,000 bills drafted, and we have moved over 200 bills to the governor, bills that have a lot of importance that I hope we can talk about during the segment, James.
Okay. And Minority Leader, what do you think? What's your word?
My word personally is whirlwind. When I think back to January, when we had the Capitol barricaded for fear of protesters, and then we had to adjust from in-person to remote testimony, which Senate President mentioned. And then for me, I personally became the minority leader in February, which from what I hear is unprecedented, where our caucus actually took a while to organize. And then I had to take on new staff, take on new responsibilities. We had vaccinations at the Capitol, vaccinations in our communities, virtual conference committees. It's just kind of been a whirlwind for me, lots of last minute changes to bills. And so this being my third session, I've evolved a lot, but for me, it's been kind of a whirlwind, although maybe that's how my life is and it's exciting that way.
Okay. Well, the 2021 session has been described as setting the stage for the future of our state. Majority Leader, could we start with you on this one? How is that?
So underreported by the media was some of the structural reforms that we did. We have many, many forward-looking bills that are going to be setting us up for 50 years down the road. There's the clean transportation bills that we passed. It's going to set up a network of charging stations across the islands. We have a broadband infrastructure bill. We have sustainability bills and healthcare bills, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, but it's just, there's been a tremendous amount of groundwork laid for us moving forward into the future.
I see. Minority Leader, what do you think? Was this a year to set the stage for the future?
I'm hopeful that we are currently out of the worst of the pandemic. We have vaccinations going into the communities. Cases are down. Our hospital, beds are pretty much, it's not in crisis mode. I think people are more optimistic. We're allowing, kids to play sports now. Tourism is back. For me personally, I am sure Majority Leader can attest to this as well, that having our keiki back in school is something that's very near and dear to our hearts, where our children are now being able to return to school in person. I think businesses are slowly coming back, although we do hear still that many are still suffering. We need to have our economy boost a little bit. But we did have that bill, which we'll probably talk about again in our segment, HB 1278, where the state was able to assist our local businesses by taking on the unemployment insurance. So overall, while not perfect, I think we're off to a new start, and hopefully the worst is behind us and we can look forward to the future.
Senate President, how are you thinking about this, setting the stage for the future this session?
Well, the first and biggest systemic change is getting all of the proper tools to allow the remote participation. And that is a game changer as to how we are going to be able to have greater access for members of the public. And it's not just the neighbor islands. We realize trying to come in from the leeward coast, coming in from the windward side, it's all great travel time and distance. And it seems that it'll be difficult to get to herd immunity. So we have people with underlying conditions or seniors who actively participate at the legislature. If they're not feeling comfortable for their own personal health, they will still be able to participate, and that's critical. And then to just highlight one specific area, since Della spoke about a couple of others, we are going to transform the way we educate our children forever. And I also see that occurring at the university or higher ed level, and how distance learning is going to hopefully make perhaps education more accessible at the higher ed level, and certainly something that people can afford, and not be burdened with an incredible debt to get a college degree.
That's a good view of the future. Yeah. Let's get down to some basics. Minority Leader Okimoto, we'll start with you on this one. What do you think were the most important bills this session?
Well, I think one of the most important would be HB 200, where we were able to pass the state budget. And while, again, not perfect, I feel that we were able to have a balanced budget. I did also mention HB 1278, which was assisting the small businesses here with the unemployment insurance. My office is still receiving calls and emails about unemployment. So I know that's still an issue. I was able to actually visit at the convention center, the headquarters, where they're still taking on unemployment calls. So I think those are the two most important. I know that hopefully we'll get to talk about the budget in a little bit, but we were able to avoid furloughs. And I think in many ways we had, we're able to avoid, financial crisis. But I would like to see, I think one thing that I did have concerns about was that while we had postponed our pay increases in the three branches of government, the government workers are still able to get their pay raises, which I know is a financial burden on the state. So, but overall, I think HB 200 was a big one for us to be able to pass. Very good.
Majority Leader, I know you'll have something to say on the most important bills. What do you think?
Sure, I'll echo the budget and we'll come back to that. But Senate President mentioned connecting our communities. And I think Kind of a quiet bill was the broadband infrastructure bill, House Bill 1191, which really sets us up to be able to draw down federal funds. It's a federal grant matching program, and that's going to be critically important, coupled with the work that the Department of Transportation is doing to connect our communities as they lay down signals and fiber and all those kinds of things to make broadband possible. So that's one bill. Another series of bills that Chair Tarnas will be talking about in the next segment is for the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. But in addition to that, there were a number of tools that we provided to the Department of Land and Natural Resources to really manage our natural resources better. And I think as we see tourists come back en masse, we really want these tools to be able to better manage our resources. So that's House Bill 1276, Senate Bill 1162 for forest stewardship, and House Bill 863. Finally, I know this is a lot, but I think it's super important. We did a number of critical bills in the healthcare arena. Senate Bill 628 that reconfigures Oahu HHSC facilities, HB 1281 that gives the EMS system back to the city and county of Honolulu as a pilot project, and House Bill 541 regarding behavioral health and looking at the gaps in the system. These three bills altogether are really addressing serious behavioral health needs, long-term care beds, substance use beds that we need in the community. So again, really wonky bills, but in areas that are very critically important to our state and our people.
I knew you'd be well prepared for that one. Thank you. President Kouchi, what do you think were some of the most important bills this session?
Well, every year the most important bill we pass is the budget bill. And of course, there was heightened importance on the budget bill this year. But we were able to move quickly to put the funding in for those who are receiving payments and got a reduction in their support because we had run out of money to make sure that those in the most need were able to get help. And a lot of the bills that Della talked about, and quite a few more that aren't even mentioned. We have rental assistance. We're trying to help with mortgage foreclosures. There are so many different individual bills that help those individuals in our community who need help, homelessness, mental health. And so it's really frustrating when you look at a headline that says, legislature giving half of the federal money to take care of business. So the decision was made to repay the unemployment insurance loan of $700 million and the $41 million in interest. Every single dollar of the $700 million that was borrowed so that people who lost their jobs could get paid. And the state of Hawaii didn't say that the unemployment insurance fund was broke and you're not going to get paid. So it's interesting that it's characterized as a giveaway for business when every dollar went to somebody who was out of work. The schedule for employers moved up. They are not paying the same or less than they were paying pre-pandemic. They have an assessment that is higher. But when you look at it and you say, how much can business afford to pay? And as Chair Luke said, government policies shut down these businesses that created the unemployment that we have. If they had to pay back the full loan and they had to pay the higher schedule, a lot of businesses would not reopen their doors and those jobs would not be available for people who lost work. So I'm insulted when I hear that we gave away half of the federal money to take care of business and we left the poor working men and women of Hawaii in the lurch. This was strategically done to ensure that the working men and women of Hawaii who were unemployed would have the opportunity to go back to work and earn a living and take care of their families and make sure that they can pay their bills.
Yes, the budget's go ahead, Majority Leader.
I think people forget that businesses were shutting down left and right in February and March, and we're going to continue to see businesses shut down. That unemployment bill we did was critically important. And so I just would echo what Senate President says, that what we did to stabilize the economy was important. And then we turned to critical services. Over $80 million was spent to shore up services that were cut from the governor's budget. Sex assault service, HIV prevention, Office of Language Access, you name it, we restored the budget cuts to those critically important areas that help working families, working individuals, day in and day out.
Okay.
I want to quickly jump into this. Maybe one of the few times where the majority and minority agree. This is one bill that I was in support of as well. And I still had constituents from my district calling. They were small business owners and they employ, like we talked about, everyday people. So this bill was something that I supported, and I'm grateful for Senate President Majority Leader to explain the backstory behind it, because it was going to help everybody, not just the local, not just the business owners, but everybody across the board.
That's good to hear. We just have about 2 minutes left, so if Majority Leader, if you could just tell us, are you satisfied with the way the budget came out?
I am. I mean, we're still going to have a lot of work to do next year. We're not out of the hole yet. We need to make sure that the economy is opening safely so we can see our tax revenues go up. And the federal funds were a one-time boost. So we're still going to need to look and do a lot of work next year, but I am hopeful, and I'm proud of the strategic work we did in this first year of the biennium.
Okay, very good. President Kouchi, what do you think? Are you satisfied with the budget bill overall?
I'm very proud of the work that Senator Dela Cruz and Representative Luke did leading the money committees. But if you listen to the floor speeches on the Senate, you heard numerous committee chairs stand up and applaud Senator Dela Cruz because of the inclusive way he worked with each committee chair in putting their priorities into the budget, and with the limited resources, make sure that everybody's voice was heard, and it was a real collaborative effort in the Senate. And none of this would have happened if the House and the Senate could not come together and collaborate on a work product. And so I was very appreciative of the ability to work across the chambers.
That's the way to get it done. Minority Leader, I'm going to give you the last word here. We just have 30 seconds left, but go ahead.
I mentioned again that, I'm glad that we were able to avoid furloughs. I'm grateful that we were able to have a balanced budget. I did have concerns about us while everybody is, still on unemployment, that we passed, I think it was 63 million in the first fiscal year and 90 million in the second fiscal year for raises, for collective bargaining raises for the government workers. I did have concerns that we funded Planned Parenthood 2.3 million to shore up their budget. I think that, again, that could have been used in a different way. But the Council of Revenues, if the revenues keep increasing based on their projections, we will have more work to do next session with a supplemental budget. So hopefully, again, we'll move forward. And grateful, again, I think Senator Dela Cruz and Chair Luke did a great job to have this budget, like was mentioned before. So overall, decent job. Good job. Thanks.
Well, we're out of time here. President Kouchi, Majority Leader Belatti, and Minority Leader Okimoto, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you all again next session on Live at the Legislature, but in a few minutes for segment 2 of today's show. Aloha.
Aloha and welcome back to segment 2 of the season finale of Live at the Legislature. My name is Jacob Aki, and this morning I'm joined by 2 representatives who are on the House Committee on Water and Land. First, we have Representative David Tarnas, who represents House District 7, which includes the areas of North Kona and South and North Kohala. Rep. Tarnas is also the chair of the House Committee on Water and Land. Second, we have Rep. Bob McDermott. Representative McDermott represents House District 40, which includes the areas of Eva Beach, Eva by Gentry, and Iroquois Point. Representatives, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's begin with discussing land use planning for sustainable development. I know there were many bills and many issues related to this topic, but in moving forward, how do we make land use planning more sustainable?
Maybe I'll jump in first
Yes.
on that
Yes.
one. Yeah, thanks very much, Jacob. I appreciate the question and appreciate the opportunity to be able to discuss these with you today. You know, one of the key things we have to do here in the state is to figure out how to implement our aspirational goals for an abundant, sustainable future for Hawaii. And to do that, I really felt it was important to make some institutional changes, administrative restructuring, to be able to integrate sustainability principles into our land use decision-making process. So we did that by passing two bills. One of them was to consolidate the Land Use Commission with the Office of Planning and rename the Office of Planning as the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. We also brought over the Office of Environmental Quality Control into this new Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. So by doing that, we've included the sustainability coordinator for the state with the land use planning, with the land use commission, with the coastal zone management program, all of these into one office, and the Office of Environmental Quality Control is going to be there also. So it really prevents this, you know, separation of silos and gets people to work together better. It'll be streamlining things, and I think that will help a great deal. And I have to acknowledge Representative McDermott, who's been a great member of the committee, working together on these issues to get government to be better designed to implement these important goals.
Representative McDermott, administrative reform was really a focus of the legislature during this past session. Do you think that government reform in the area of land management was critically needed?
Well, first, good morning. Thank you, James, and Olelo crew for inviting us. I first want to say that Representative Tarnas has been the most proactive chairman I've ever seen with regard to water and land use management. He just talked about two issues there, sustainability and reorganizing the infrastructure. He's the expert. I mean, he's got a handle on this, and he's been an environmentalist since I met him back in '96 when we both came here many years ago. So he's done a great job. I was surprised to see how many resolutions that we passed, House concurrent resolutions. And I asked him why, and he was explaining to me to get these departments to move, to take action so the citizens can get a resolution to whatever that dispute is.
You know, everyone in our state is concerned about managing our coastal areas and the issue of sea level rise. There were a number of bills that were passed this session to work on these issues. Maybe we'll start with you, Representative McDermott. Which bills stand out for you in regards to this issue of coastal areas?
Well, let me confess something. I've been a skeptic to a degree until this weekend. There's at the end of a cul-de-sac, I live in Eva Beach, and there was a 3-foot seawall there, and it had been there for 20 years since I moved in. It's gone now. The ocean ate it. It's gone. It wasn't a freak storm. It was just the sea level was rising. This is in Eva Beach. The street was flooded. A constituent called me down there, and David, I'd like to meet with you and talk about this street offline. I want to bring you out there and show it to you. It's unbelievable. So with regard to what particular bills, I don't memorize the bill numbers. We have so many, but I will say that Representative Tarnas did a fantastic job leading the committee in a very workmanlike fashion, and we dispatched a myriad of issues in front of us.
And let me build on that. Thank you, Representative McDermott, for your acknowledgement there. And you're absolutely right. We're getting flooding issues happening in our residential and commercial areas, even without a storm, even without high surf. We're starting to see that happening. So what we needed to do was just to make sure that if anyone is considering to purchase a piece of property, that the real estate agent needs to disclose to them if it's within a sea level rise exposure area, it's at risk of being flooded, so that the buyer is fully aware of the risk when they purchase a property. So it's really a consumer protection bill, and it protects the real estate agent as well, so that everyone knows the facts. We use the sea level rise viewer online which models different sea level rise amounts, so you can see where your property is and the risk that you're willing to accept. The second bill we passed was to direct all the different state agencies to look at all of their infrastructure and their facilities and find which ones are vulnerable to impacts from sea level rise, and then prioritize them and make a report to the legislature so that we can figure out what are we going to do to adapt to sea level rise so we can reduce the damage to our public infrastructure and facilities. So those are two major bills that we moved through. There's a number of others, but I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Thank you. Marine resource management is really critical for maintaining our fishery. What was done during the session for resource conservation enforcement and regulating commercial fishing gear and the taking of or the overtaking of many of these species? Maybe we'll start with you, Representative Tarnas.
Oh, thanks very much. We wanted to strengthen our conservation resource enforcement folks, their capacities. So we did pass a bill which would allow them to inspect coolers and your bags of fish or tanks of fish that you've caught, just to make sure that you're in compliance. We also passed a bill that allows for a commercial fishing boat to get a license for the entire vessel, for everyone who's fishing on that vessel to be covered by that single commercial marine vessel license. It's been something that the commercial fishers have been asking for many, many years, and we were finally able to get that through. We also passed a first recreational fishing license bill. This is only for non-residents, but it's going to be a good practice for us to set up a fishing license, which we don't have in Hawaii. And it's time that we do this so that we understand who's catching fish and where. We've also authorized DLNR to regulate lay nets, which are really important gear that we need to be able to regulate better so that it doesn't cause negative impacts by catching fish or protected species in areas that are their nurseries, for example. And then finally, I'll just mention a couple more. We did pass a bill finally after many, many years, which regulates the take of sharks. It gives them greater protection, and that's something that many folks in the community really wanted. But we also provided a means for fishers to continue to capture shark, but have to be done by permit, and there are certain restrictions within that permitting. We set up an ocean stewardship fund, which I think is going to be an important one, where we get visitors who go out on ocean tours to contribute to this fund. I acknowledge Rep. McDermott didn't really want to add more fees to our visitors, and I appreciate that input. There was some skepticism about it, but it is part of an overall trend that we're trying to, have visitors pay their fair share to protect our resources.
Let's go to that issue, because I know over the past session there were a lot of action done in terms of trying to manage our natural resources, more specifically our state parks. Across the state, we've seen in 2018 when Haena on Kauai started to charge visitors going into their park. In March 1st, Wai Napa Napa in Hana. Representative McDermott, I know you may not have been the biggest fan on implementing these visitor fees for the park. Can you maybe share some of the concern that you have with this type of management model?
Well, I think Dave's done a great job. I just have a personal issue as with new fees and new charges that we put on people, and it's not an assault on David. He's trying to figure out how to pay for this stuff, right? So he's trying to figure out how to raise revenue to pay for the ocean stewardship and the things they want to do. I understand that. I respect it. I don't make a big deal of it. I just vote no, because I think it's a real challenge to the visitor coming here. If they're going to have to buy a fishing license, unless they go on a commercial vessel, then they're covered by, which was a great move on his part by the owner. He's got the single umbrella license. If they don't, I'm not sure that they're actually going to go buy the license. And where would they go fishing if they're not going with a commercial vessel? unless they go to Lake Wilson or something, I don't know. So, and who would want to, they should pay you to fish in there, not, you have to pay for the privilege. He did a great job, and he's a great committee chairman. I just vote no on the fees. I try to be a check there just to remind everybody. That's all.
Thank you. Representative Tarnas, what is your thought? Because, some of the numbers that I saw recently was that in the first month at Wayanapa State Park, the park garnered over $100,000 in parking revenue. Do you think this is the type of management model the state needs to better preserve our natural resources while trying to manage the amount of tourism and the impact that they have in those specific areas?
Yeah, that's a good question, Jacob. Having a parking lot where you can limit the number of folks who are coming in to park is an important management tool to limit the numbers of people that come to a destination like Haena, or you mentioned several of them, where they're beautiful places, iconic places that visitors want to come to, but they're being overrun. So to better manage them so that we don't exceed the carrying capacity of these places, having a parking lot that you can limit the number of parking and you can limit the number of people is important. But we have to be able to do pricing based on demand. And to do that, we call it dynamic pricing. We needed to authorize the DLNR to do that, where they could actually modify the fees based on the demand, holiday schedule, or reduce the fees for residents during times when there's not a lot of visitors around, so that we can balance it both ways. So we authorized DLNR to do this dynamic pricing, where they are able to do this through administrative approval instead of having to go out for public hearings. It's still a public process, so it still has public review and comment, but it's much more efficient. And that was a big move that we were able to do this year. And I think that's the sort of thing we're trying to build capacity, give more tools to the DLNR to better manage our state parks, our forests, so that we can take care of the environment, not let it be overrun by visitors, so that we can maintain our quality of environment and quality of life, which is so important as we rebuild our economy.
In the state budget, HB 200, a large amount of funding was allocated to the Department of Land and Natural Resources for things like managing invasive species. I know a good amount of money was also allocated specifically to control the issue of rapid ohia death. How important is it for us, especially during these fiscal times, to make sure that we have resources to deal with the problems related to invasive species?
Well, I can jump in on that. It's important. Obviously, we don't want to be overrun with invasive species, the brown tree snake, or anything else. I would like to mention that one of the things David has tried to deal with, or my observation, is that balancing the visitor industry demands, and do we have 10 million visitors? Because what does that 10 million visitors do to our natural resources? We look at Hanama Bay. When they close it down, it regenerates, right? Nature takes care of that. So the balance and I found that as a theme running through all of our discussions, how big do we want this visitor industry, and balancing that against our natural resources? And as David said, we don't want them trampled, right? And that's happened in some cases. So he's always tried to find a balance, and that's been very difficult because we don't have a consensus on that yet, other than we want less and we want them to spend more. But other than that, we don't have the number, right? So,
Representative Tarnas?
Yeah, let me just say that it's important for us to figure out how to deal with this rapid ohia death. It is causing devastation in our forests, and it's a fungus that moves quickly. We need to figure out how to control it. So I was very grateful to get the funding for that. We have about $875,000 going into research into controlling rapid ohia death, and it's now all over the state, not just here on Hawaii Island. We also put in a substantial investment into watershed management, which is really important. It's not just to protect the trees, but it's to keep the soil on the ground rather than when it rains, it doesn't just run off and go into the streams and into the ocean and smother the coral reef. It's Mauka to Makai. That's all connected, and we're really recognizing that in our budget, which I'm very grateful for. And let me mention one other thing. As things warm up, the mosquitoes start to spread, and the mosquitoes are causing significant negative impact on our native birds. So we need to do something better to control mosquitoes. And so we passed a resolution trying to get the DLNR and Department of Ag to use some new techniques in large-scale mosquito control so we can protect our forest birds. So these are the sort of things that we really need to do to protect our forest environment and our entire ecosystem.
We have about 90 seconds left, but a lot of important work was done in the Water Atlantic committees in both the Senate and House during this past session. Is there any other issues or any other bills that you think residents should know about that may not have been highlighted in the news or in the other media outlets?
I'll jump in real quick. We did several bills related to protecting agriculture and addressing some of the challenges that we have in balancing land use and agriculture. Strengthen our farm to school program to try to get more locally sourced food into our schools. I mean, all of those things I think are going to make a big difference. But let me hand it over to Rep. McDermott for the final word there. And again, I really appreciate his work on the Water and Land Committee.
Well, thanks, Dave. But with Representative Tarnas leading the committee, you just hold on for dear life and vote yes most of the time. You can see he's got a grasp of the subject matter, and it's clearly his passion, and I appreciate that. Dave, though, I would like to meet with you sometime to go out to Eva Beach. I want to show you this because the guy took a video of it, the wall when it got knocked down. He was videotaping this surge. Unbelievable. And now they have a situation where there's no wall at the end of this street, goes right to the ocean. So the discussion with him was, how do you get a permit? All the practical stuff that you deal with, right? The department deals with. It was built in 1957, no permit. So how do you even begin to grapple with that? And then all the various agencies, so you got to get them all in the same sheet of music, right? And so I'll be in touch with your office, though.
Let's do it. I'll call you. We'll work on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. We are out of time. And for those of you at home, thank you for tuning in. And we'll see you next year on Live at the Legislature. Aloha.
Thanks.
Great job, guys.
Okay, good morning. I'm Tom Coons. I'm with the House Minority Research Office here at the Hawaii State Capitol. Well, I think it's safe to say that the 2021 session ended with a bang last week. The coronavirus pandemic affected everything we did this year, both in public health and economic recovery. So we thought we would put some of our newest state legislators to the test, see what they've learned, in a segment we like to call the 2-minute drill. So I'm here with a group of our newest leaders, but I'm betting after an intense session such as this one, that newness is probably worn off. I'm joined today by Representative Sonny Ganaden, Senator Laura Acasio, and Representative Adrian Tam. Good morning, everybody. How are we doing?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Excellent. Okay, so here's how it works. I'll throw out a question, and you'll have 2 minutes as a group to answer. We expect a lot of lively banter, okay? That's what we're looking for here. And I am being
for all of us together?
Yeah, all of us together. Can you believe it?
All right.
I know. And I am being told, is this right? This is right. This is by far the most popular segment on Live at the Legislature, so you guys should feel pretty excited. And let's just try to keep things rolling, keep the momentum going here. So, the first question, here we go. What song title best sums up the 2021 legislative session? Senator, we'll begin with you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today. Being that this is the first year we have seen this unprecedented in having a woman vice president, and now I am the 9th female senator, and I have a staff of mostly women. I would have to say Girl on Fire by Alicia Keys is it represents our legislative session. for this year. And also as a backup, second one, being that I'm new and I started the day before session began, I Will Survive by Gloria Gaynor.
There we go. That's a good one. How about you, Representative Tam?
Yes, thank you so much for having me again. And I think if I could describe this session in one song title, because like Rep. Okimoto said, it was a whirlwind of a session. It was our first year. It was a lot of fun. I'm going to say Hawaiian Roller Coaster Ride from the Lilo and Stitch movie.
Wow. Okay, I like that one. That's good. And how about you, Representative Ganaden?
Song I've been listening to on the radio, SZA, Good Days. Still want to try, still believe in good days.
Oh, wow, there are bonus points for singing. Okay, I didn't expect that. All right.
Yeah, cautious optimism.
Okay.
That's definitely a bonus.
So our next question, freshman flub, tell us about an embarrassing moment. Let's go behind the scenes here you had during your first year here at the Hawaii State Capitol. Representative Ganaden, we'll begin with you.
Me? Mistakes? Never.
Never, no.
Could you believe that? No. Now, we showed up 5 minutes late to submit bills on a Friday afternoon. That was horrible. And then my mouth was writing checks that my butt couldn't cash. And so I was just freaking out and figured it out right towards the end. It was no problem. But pay attention to the schedule. That was the lesson.
Excellent. Senator, how about you?
Yeah, there's a lot of that. As we know, the session goes extremely fast and there's about 5,000 fires to put out. Meanwhile, you have to pay attention to, the timing of everything and deadlines and meetings and such. I would say that on the floor, however, the Senate, during the Senate sessions, the votes go really fast and you have to pay attention, incredibly to what's happening. Being that it's my first year, I did stand up at one point to give comments on a bill that we were talking about, a different bill. And so, it got a bit confused in the moment. And that was, I could sense a little bit of confusion or a different feeling coming from my colleagues. And then later on, I realized, I was speaking to a different bill. And so it didn't quite make sense. And that was definitely a moment of, all right, well, you just keep moving on and do the best.
That's right.
Yeah. Not too many nothing big though. That's wonderful.
Yep. How about you, Representative Tam?
Because we were all in a remote legislature, I think that one of my freshman flubs was that we were kind of just dressed professionally from the top up. And I was wearing basketball shorts at one point. And I think I got up and I think everyone saw that I was just wearing a Nike basketball short with wearing suits. So that was definitely my freshman flub.
At least you had basketball shorts on.
Yeah, man.
At least I'm wearing something, right?
Yeah.
That's a good point. Okay. Here's a chance to kiss up. I think it's always important to know, where your bread is buttered. Which legislator was the most helpful to you during your first year? Representative Tam, you get the first chance at this.
The legislator that helped me the most would be Representative Ryan Yamada, who is the chair of the Health, Human Services, and Homelessness Committee. And that happens to be the committee that I'm vice chair of. He was able to give me a lot of insights, a lot of tips, advice, and reasons as to why we are passing these bills. And I think that better prepared me as a legislator so I can understand the process and the mechanics that go into some of these ideas that are coming out of the legislature.
How about you, Representative Ganaden?
The honorable, brilliant, intelligent Sylvia Luke, who helped guide us through this budget. So capable, so intelligent. So I really also need to thank my chair, Takashi Ono. He's chair of the we are on the Committee on Corrections, Military, and Veterans Affairs. He helped really guide me. We're about the same age, and we became friends over this session. So I really like to thank him.
How about you, Senator? Did you make any friends?
Oh, I made lots of friends. There was so much help in the state senate and also with the representatives in the House. Is it cheating if I can't narrow it down to one?
No, you have to do one.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
What?
You're like
Yes.
4 seconds left.
You know, I really can't. There's so many.
Oh gosh.
But
Sylvia Luke
yes,
is the right
Sylvia
answer.
Luke.
I'm sorry, it was Chair Luke. Yes.
Actually, you know, the Hawaii Island delegation, so if I lump them in a sum, you know, they really helped me in so many ways. I was grateful to work on collaborations. Some challenged me, got me to think. So I really want to thank Senator Inouye, Senator Sam Buenaventura for long hours of, you know, discussion and, you know, collaborations with Rep. Todd and Representative Nakashima and Representative Onishi. And I'm really inspired by our Representative Capella as well. She just really stands strong and she always comes with aloha. But really still, I can tell her core values will be with her forever. But in the Senate side, you know, there's a group that we do a lot of bill study together with. Senator Ihara has spent numerous hours mentoring, as well as Senator Kim, Senator Moriwaki, Senator Riviere. But I think my biggest buddy is across the aisle, and it's Senator Favela. We really see eye to eye on a lot of things. Yeah, very surprisingly, because, or for myself even.
Yeah.
And, you know, I really feel like, you know, he was a great example for me in always standing for the people and standing together for Hawaii, for the betterment of Hawaii.
Well, nicely done. You named almost everybody.
Yeah.
That was good. Seriously. And now we're out of time. No, I'm just kidding. All right. So let's move on to our next question. The best bill. Legislators considered more than 3,000 bills this session. And ultimately, we sent more than 230 to the governor. What was the single most important piece of legislation this year? I'm sorry, Senator, we're not going to begin with you because we can't do that again. Representative Ganaden.
Of course, it's the budget. The budget identifies where our priorities are this year. The legislature has shrunk the state government by, I believe, 7%. That's a pretty significant amount. The federal government bailed us out this year. They're not going to bail us out again. We've got to do that for ourselves moving forward. That we also mentioned earlier in the program, a discussion about broadband, really a lack of internet access for people in public housing, like many of the individuals that I represent. So we're working on that. We also started to make moves towards criminal justice reform. So I'm happy to be a part of that conversation.
Representative Tam, what do you think?
The single most important bill that we passed this year was a bill introduced by Representative Sean Quinlan of the North Shore. It was HB 1176, which would create a Green Jobs Corps program. And I think that's like the first step we can take to diversify our economy, which is very needed.
Okay, excellent. Senator, what do you think?
I actually think the most important bill was our Senate Bill 676, which passed the Senate, which is raising the minimum wage. And unfortunately, it was stalled in the House. And so, you know, I really think, you know, I advocated myself for a graduated increase to actually a living wage. I think, you know, if there's a change in leadership along the way, that we'll have another chance at it. And I'm very hopeful that there's another chance at it for next year. And I really do think that so much of our, you know, poverty stems out of being able to have that living wage.
Excellent. Wow, those are all excellent answers. All right. All right. So looking ahead, let's be a fortune teller here. What's the most important issue for the legislature next year? Now that you have a year under your belt and you guys are all professionals, you can see into the future. Representative Tam, what do you think it is? What's the most important issue next year?
Well, this year, I think the most important issue was getting the pandemic in order and to kind of take a handle on that. So I think the next year would be, again, to rebuild our economy. Like our majority leader said, businesses are going to continue to close because the economy is still not stable and tourism is not coming back. And that's why I've really focused in on diversifying our economy. And that's why I mentioned that Green Jobs program. I'm hoping that we can grow it and that we can create more stable jobs here in Hawaii for our people.
Excellent. Senator, what do you think? Senator?
I'm sorry.
Your turn. That's all right.
So I'm going to go back to living wage. Poverty is root cause of so many of our issues, including homelessness, crime, substance abuse, mental health issues. And I do believe that when we talk about sustainability, and it will help bring and continue to have more of our money circling back into the economy, and allowing for more opportunities. So.
Okay, Representative Ganaden.
I'd like us to talk about the social determinants of health. So the pandemic kind of teaches us that we're all connected, that your health, your family's health is connected to the lowest paid essential worker. And then we also had to redefine what essential work is. Sometimes it's somebody who's stocking a cabinet or helping you get your groceries. That said, I'd like us to really think out the kind of criminal justice system we need in the 21st century. Part of that is increasing people's living wages. Part of that is thinking out public health options that we actually increased funding for this last session. And also increasing housing without infringing upon the constitutional and moral obligations that we have for Native Hawaiians.
Wow, those are all very good answers. You guys passed. Excellent.
That was good.
So if you now you looked into the future, how about we take a step back now, and if you could turn back time, just like Cher once sang, and I won't do that here, but if you could turn back time, what would you do differently? We'll start with you, Senator. What do you think?
I would have taken, well, if I had more time, but if we're magic makers, I would have had more time to collaborate prior to with and have more opportunities with my colleagues, and devoted more time to understanding the budget process and deepen my understanding of that.
Excellent. Representative Ganaden.
There's a feminist concept of noting that the personal is the political. So maybe I think that I would have put my personal life together prior to joining this political body. So maybe I'll have time to do that. Just joining what the senator said.
And Representative Tam.
I think that if I could do something differently and turn back time, what a really good song. I think that I would have spent some time learning more of the history behind several proposals and legislations that have been done in the past. I think that if I spent more time, I would have probably found a piece of legislation that was proposed in the past that would have been a good idea now and would have had a chance, and we would have had a chance to revive them. So I think that's what I would have done differently.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, now I know a lot of people are wondering this next question. I hope you're ready here. If you weren't a state legislator, what the heck would you be doing? I think we'll begin with you, Representative Ganaden. I think this is perfect. What would you be doing if you weren't a state legislator?
Before this, I was lawyering. I'm still lawyering, and I was making a lot of art and writing. So I'll get back into that. Look, man, this year teaches us that it could all be gone. You could lose everything, right? You could lose your health. You could lose everything. So I think there's an open mic stand-up comedy in Waikiki going down this summer. So I might try that. I'm probably going to be terrible at it. So I'm going to practice with my staff that's going to be forced to listen to me. And so I'm going to put together a little 10-minute bit and probably insult my colleagues. So
that's fantastic. I'll sign me up. I'm right there. How about Representative Tam?
Yeah, Rep. Ganaden, if you do that, please invite me, especially since you're going to be in my district.
Yeah, no, we're all coming. We're doing stand-up. I'll do everybody's
all
impersonation.
75 of us are coming. I think that if I wasn't here, prior to this, I was a staffer in the state senate, so I would still be doing that. Mm-hmm. I will also be a realtor because that's what I'm currently doing right now as well. So we have a very small family-run real estate firm, and I would just be selling and buying houses for first-time home buyers.
Wow. Okay. All right, Senator. How do you follow that up? We have a stand-up comedian, realtor.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to try my hand at stand-up anytime soon, but I would be teaching K through 6. I teach Ike Hawaii, Hawaiian Studies, And being that things have changed with the pandemic and our school structure setup, I would have probably also taken on a combination of PE and also garden with my students and incorporated all of the same concepts of Ike Hawaii and ethnobotany and language, Olela Hawaii, into those teachings. I also help with families going into childbirth and the process of becoming a parent as a doula. And so I do that regularly within the community, and I would continue that perinatal support in the community. I also participate, I'd be continuing to participate as a state central committee member with the Democratic Party and various volunteer work with the Democratic Party, as well as other volunteer work within the community.
Holy smokes. That's okay. That's amazing.
And parenting. I would be here with my kids, but.
Yeah. Okay, so a couple of questions left, and we're kind of running short on time. What's the in-between time? So what do you guys hope to accomplish during your first interim? We'll start with you, Senator.
I will be getting a little bit more exercise because I've done a lot of sitting and a lot of reading. I'll continue to read, but I might have to read while I ride a bike or something. I don't know how that'll work. At any rate, yeah, I'll definitely be getting into the water. Also, but on a serious note, I'll be engaging with community continually and really, for example, what farmers need for food resiliency. So I'll be talking to farmers. I'm really curious to learn more about this feed mill in Panaeva and learn how that can really contribute to a sustainable circular economy within our community. Just continue to build more support with our Waste to Wealth initiative and our permanent supportive housing. So continue, to engage community like Going Home Hawaii and Hope Services, and work with Congressman Kahele.
And Representative Ganaden, how about you?
As the senator said, I'm going to be reconnecting with community. I still volunteer and I work with young men and boys, 12-year-olds in the neighborhood, so I'll do that. Also, I was going to do a working group on criminal justice reform. So thinking out the ways that we can end the state's relationship with private prisons. If we don't do it, nobody's going to do it for us.
Yep.
So that's going to be kind of a process, working with some former attorney generals, as well as some former judges on that.
And Representative Tam.
Senator Acasio said, I'm going to be exercising a lot of running. I have a very dense district and people jog the perimeter of my district for fun. So I'm going to be doing that. But like I also said, reconnecting with the community, doing more events, doing talk stories, reaching out, seeing what help I can provide for them. And I'm also hoping that I could meet with a lot of stakeholders to draft some pretty groundbreaking legislation for the next upcoming legislative session.
Nice.
Okay. And the last question, real quick, in 10 seconds, what advice would you give to the next set of freshmen? Representative Ganaden, real quick.
When I work with kids, there's something called temporary amnesty. Even if you're mad at somebody, just temporarily be kind to them and just be a professional.
Nice. Senator, how about you? Real
I would say read the bills, do your homework. It takes a lot of time and it's an investment, but it's really worth it.
Yep. And Representative Tam, thank you very much.
I'm going to say be yourself and don't try to be someone you're not, because authenticity resonates.
Okay. Well, we're out of time. That was fantastic, guys. I learned so much about each of you. It's unreal. So thank you very much for joining us on Live at the Legislature. We hope to see you again soon. Thanks.
Thank you.
That was awesome. Thank you, guys.
Bye.